Okay, have you guys have any of those like days, weekends, weeks, months where all you can do is just laugh because it's been so crazy? Okay, like not even when I say crazy, I mean just like hit the fan, like just like it feels like you're just hitting your head on a brick wall over and over and over again. And it's not like you're doing it; you're actually standing still. The brick wall is hitting you. Like that's that kind of anybody. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. I had a version, not the worst version I've ever had, but a version of that this last weekend. Okay, I'm sitting in men's breakfast and my phone starts blowing up. And I try to be present wherever I am. And so I was like, if it's an urgent, they'll call me. If it's Natalie, she'll call me. She's probably just informing me about something or whatever it is. By the way, my name's Pastor Aeric, if I haven't met you, and my wife, Natalie. So I get out of men's breakfast and I look at my phone. The day before, I just took my 2022 Ford Escape. I've had it for a year. I took it into my mechanic because my AC wasn't working, and I never really just had like the finances to fix it. And I figured it was just a free on charge. And so I took it in and said, "Hey, can you do that?" And he was like, "Actually, it's an air compressor issue." And I was like, "Okay, a little more expensive than I thought, but we just got a tax return. We'll bite the bullet. We'll get it fixed. I need AC. I don't want to go through another Nebraska summer with no AC. So we were going to fix it. So I take it in a shop, and then he's working on it Saturday morning, and I'm getting all these texts. And who knows that when you get a text from your mechanic, it's not like, "Hey, guess what? It's free." Especially if it's multiple. And some of the questions he starts asking is like, "Hey, did you get in a car crash?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, we were looking at the air compressor and we started taking stuff off to get to the air compressor. And we're noticing a few other things. Like the Freon's not charged, the air compressor is broken. Like we already knew that. But like the radiator hose, it's actually spliced. It's supposed to be one piece. And then whoever routed it actually routed it incorrectly and it's going into the radiator fan. So that's probably caused some overheating just even in that. And then he's like, and then also your oil's leaking, and then because of the radiator hose being spliced, you have radiator fluid leaking. And he goes, "Have you noticed like any oil?" And I was like, "Yeah, but my wife has an older car. I just figured it was hers or something like that. We need to get blah 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 all these things." And he goes, and all of that is actually relatively cheap and fixable. He goes, "But your engine block is cracked." And for those who don't know, that means you can't drive the car because it's the engine block. Like it's the thing that houses the moving part of the vehicle. And he's like, "Yeah, like this car." So we look up the VIN number and it's been in this car crash, but it wasn't totaled. And so it's not a salvage title. So when we signed all this stuff, we didn't know. And so, yeah, just it was crazy. So I was like, "What do I do?" New engine, by the way, for those who don't know, $10,000 or more, depending on the car. Probably for a newer car, probably about $15,000 to $17,000. Yeah, not great. And so he's like, "I can't even put the car back together in order to." He's like, "This thing is done. You like in order to put it back together, I got to put a new engine in it. Not just even ethically, just I can't even put it back together. Like bolts snapped off. And I'm just like, okay." Happy Easter. So we go into Easter Sunday. I Ubered here to church. Like I'm just like, "You know what, God, you got this. It's gonna be okay." I go in Monday and I'm just like, I asked my mechanic, "What do I do?" And he's like, he goes, "You had it for a year. This stuff should have been caught in an inspection. You were not in a car crash. And they should have caught it. And they sold you a car under a false premise, like that. This was a working car. It's not." He goes, "Take it in. Tell them they need to do what's right." And I go, "I think we signed paperwork that says we bought it as is." And he goes, "Oh, you might be up the creek then." And so I take it in, and that's basically what they told me. "Hey, it's not a salvage title. We would have inspected it." And so I go, "Can I get your inspection report?" The next 10 hours was me driving back and forth between my mechanic and the dealership, getting the car towed, calling AAA, doing all this stuff. I learned more about cars this weekend than my entire life. And so I'm writing notes. We're looking at inspection reports, analyzing pictures. And finally, I get a case together. I was not going to win it legally, but if I could morally guilt you into fixing this, like, or doing something with this, I have enough of a case, and show them that there's stuff in, here's a crazy thing. Okay. There's stuff, I'm just now telling a story. There's stuff in the pictures of their inspection report that show that it's broken, and they should have caught it. So somebody just clicked through, checked boxes and all this stuff, and I got proof. So I'm walking in, I like kick the door down in the dealership. I'm like, Daddy's home and you're getting me a new car. Like, I did not do that. I was just like, oh, this sucks. Like, I hate negotiating. I just, all that stuff. Eventually we get to the point that they say, we will trade in your car for its value as if it's a working car, and then you can buy a new one. So that's the win, was I got a new loan. What would you guys do in my situation? Exactly. We didn't have money for a new car. Like, we don't have the stuff. I can't fix it. I'm not mechanically there's all these things I missed, all these things I learned, and all this stuff. There's everything's running through my head. Do we start like a GoFundMe? Like, hey, pastors need a car. Like like, I don't know, something like, let's go up the ladder. I'm actually, yeah, you're not going to get me a new car, but who might? Channel 4 might. Like, I might kind of like throw it at them and be like, what if I bring the news here and talk about how you guys don't do inspections right? Is that gonna okay, anybody with me? Do you want me to raise hell or not? Like I was weighing all that stuff, and everything in me was just telling me, just breathe, don't take advantage. Just do what only you can do. That's everything that's in me. Here's the thing that I needed more than anything else that was happening here. I needed a new perspective. Because my perspective at the moment was, I'm going to have to get a new car. And now I'm going to have 3 car loans. My wife's, my broken car, and now my new car. That's what's running through my head. And I'm angry, and I feel like I've been wrong. But what I needed more than anything was, what is the angle? What is the view of the situation that I can't see? I have no idea how to just step outside of it. Like, if I brought you along with me, what would you say to me in that? What would what if my friend who's a lawyer, if I brought him, how would what perspective would he show me? If I brought my mechanic, this is the reason why I was going back and forth. If he was here, what would he say in this situation? He's not me, and he's not going to face the bill that I'm going to pay. So he has a completely different perspective. This is why we are going to read the book of Philippians. Because what Paul offers is, how as Christians do we live and look at life with a different perspective? Okay? It's going to be difficult because, like me, you're going to have to sit in situations that do not seem fair and figure out not how to make it fair, but what would Jesus ask you to do here? Challenging. So, book of Philippians, for those who haven't done a lot of studying or don't know much about the Bible, that is perfectly okay. I love that, by the way, because it means that we are helping people that haven't been helped before. So in the New Testament, there's a series of books. The first ones are called the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Then there's a book called Acts that is just about the story of the beginning of the church. And then you get just a series of what are letters to letters from specific, like, pastors, apostles, leaders, or letters from those apostles to churches. And so we get a guy named Paul, and Paul used to be a person. He was a religious figure. Think of like a lawyer of religious law. That was his job. And one of the things he was really, really good at was looking at those who were now following the way of Jesus and saying, you don't follow the Jewish way of Yahweh. And because of that, I have the authority then to kill you. And this was his main occupation, was how he was the best at this. It says that in the book of Acts, where the church is beginning, that this guy named Saul, who turned his name changes to Paul later on, is there at the stoning of the first disciple. Like this is the man we're talking about. He has a radical encounter with God. And in this, God changes his name to Paul and he gives him a new charge in life. Go and preach the gospel, spread the good news of Jesus to places that have not experienced it. You see, there was very common places, people that Jesus interacted with, but what about everyone else? And Jesus, although he had a great message and he traveled, he was still very condensed in the area in which he was focused in his ministry time. And so, what do we do with that? Well, Jesus, at the end, before he goes to heaven, says, go and make disciples. Go reach out to all the different lands. So, Paul is taking that message very literally because it was meant to be. And so, Paul would go into a city. He would plant a church. He would spread the good news. He would gather a community very similar to this. Sometimes it was small. Sometimes it was big. Sometimes it started small and got really big. Sometimes it started really big and got really small. Like this is, and then he would kind of elect the leaders. He would help kind of establish who were going to be the ones that were going to help cover and advance the kingdom the most. And then he would leave and go do that in a different city. And then what he would do was he would write letters back to those previous churches. He would hear stuff about them and he would write letters, either of encouragement or correction. Hey, you guys are doing great. Hey, maybe stop that. Would be some of his stuff. And then some of it way more directly. Stop that. Like, please, Book of Romans, maybe stop that. Corinthians, stop. So this is what we're going to be reading here today. And if we go back to Mari when she opened up, I love first in the beginning of it, when you open up here, chapter 1, verse 9, I pray that your love will overflow more and more. You'll keep on growing in knowledge. It's this beautiful, and it kind of sounds like this love letter, like, oh, this is one of those encouraging ones, and it's going to be okay. But the truth could not be further from that. Paul, when writing this, is in prison. Yeah, in Rome. Not a great prison system. If you thought our prison systems were bad, this one has no air conditioning or heating. Probably didn't feed them very well. No cots. Like nothing good is in this prison. Okay? And not only that, the church he's writing to, it's a church called Philippi, or the city's called Philippi. It's a Roman occupied city. So Paul's in a Roman jail. He's preaching to a Roman occupied city who are actively persecuting, not like how we think church is persecuted in our Western church. We're like, we can't do it. It's like, no, I mean like, your children will be taken away from you. You will go to jail. And if you do it again, we will kill you in a similar way that we killed Jesus. Or we'll throw you into the Colosseum and you will be tied up and lions will devour you for our entertainment. This is the church in Philippi. And what's his beginning words? I pray that your love will overflow more and more. Thanks, Paul. Verse 12, if you open up your book, I want you to highlight whatever words step out to you here. It's going to be a little bit different. You're going to be reading from the ESV. I have the NLT up here, but the words still mean the same. It says this, and I want you to know, my dear brothers and sisters, that everything that has happened to me here, meaning the prison, has helped me spread the good news. The good news is that Jesus came to seek and save the lost, to set the captive free, to give us redemption. This is the good news he's talking about. For everyone here, including the whole palace guard, knows that I'm in chains because of Christ. What? This is insane, by the way. Maybe just to me. Maybe you guys are holier than me. But for me, I'm like, what? Paul, get it together. You're in prison. There is nothing good about it. Yet Paul seems, and you'll see this later on as we read this, I'm not saying he's happy to be there, but he's like, how else would I have helped these people if I didn't go to prison? How else would prisoners hear the good news if I wasn't here? How else will these Roman guards who would never come to me ever hear that Christ loves them? This is wild stuff. I want you to catch this. Write this down. How you see life defines how you face life. How you see life defines how you face life. He's passing along this very important idea for those who are facing persecution and suffering in difficult times in their lives. He says, you need to face life differently. You need to gain a new perspective. And you see, he's in a very similar struggle, and he's showing them the godly perspective outside of it. This is a good leader, a good teacher right here who's helping us even today. The call of a follower of Jesus is to be able to sit in what many would call suffering and somehow find joy. Isn't that crazy? In another letter called the Book of Galatians, he's writing to a church there, and he writes what is really well known to a lot of us, which is the fruits of the Spirit. All right, has anybody heard those? Okay, great. You grew up in Sunday school or maybe here at Dwell Church. One of them is patience. Evidence that God is moving in your life is patience. Correctly translated and not softened for like our audience, us reading it today, is actually long suffering. That evidence that God is moving in your life is that you can suffer for a long period of time. Ugh. Anybody glad to be in church today? You go, no wonder the church is losing members. Like, he says this, but here's, okay, perspective change, okay? I want to hand this to you because this is Bible. This is good Bible right here. To be able to suffer for a long time. This is patience. Use that word if you need to, if that feels difficult, whatever it is. Someday embrace it. It's okay. But what's paired well with long suffering is joy and peace and love, self-control, kindness and goodness and faithfulness. He says, whenever you're doing these things together, you know God will be moving. So the challenge is not simply going, well, I'm suffering, so it must mean that God is doing something. True, but he won't complete the work without joy. He won't complete the work until there's a sense of peace in you. And you go, well, then I'm just failing. Stop. It's a journey. Because now the journey is how do you, yes, we're all going to face some sort of suffering. Now, how do you start gaining the perspectives? Are you seeing the importance of the book of Philippians here? Okay. He continues in verse 19. For I know that as you pray for me and the Spirit of Jesus Christ helps me, this will lead to my deliverance. He's already anticipating. I'm going to get out of here. It's going to be okay. Thank you for praying for me. That's going to help. I fully expect and hope that I will never be ashamed, but that I will continue to be bold for Christ. I'm not going to back away from what I know is true, even in my situation right now, as I have been in the past, and I will trust that my life will bring honor to Christ, whether I live or die. You got to say die with a deep voice. Die. James Earl Jones, Simba, Simba. Like you got to do it. So in your head, when you're narrating, do that. Add a little bass to it. Okay? Live or die. This is Paul's direction right here. It's September of 1942. A young Jewish psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl found himself standing in line just outside of a Nazi concentration camp. At the time, nobody knew the extent of the atrocities committed by the Nazi regime. Frankl faced one of the most horrific experiences in human history. However, this did not stop him from writing about his experiences and taking notes. And in this process, actually developed a new kind of therapy called logotherapy. And logotherapy is, if the problem of life is suffering, logotherapy and finding meaning is the answer. After years of torture, World War II ended, and the men and women left alive, like Viktor Frankl, were set free. He collected his notes and published a book called Man's Search for Meaning. If you haven't read it, I want to encourage you, read this book. It's very difficult. It's because he does not, he writes it from the perspective of a psychiatrist, so it's very clinical. He almost removes himself out of it. The backstory of it is he actually didn't want to publish his notes, but his friends encouraged him. Hey, you need to show the world this, because a lot of people are going to tell the story of what happened. You're going to be the one to tell the story of how you made it through. And so you need to tell people. In one of my favorite quotes on the purpose of suffering, Frankl writes, "In some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice." Some of the torture of suffering is not knowing why, right? Some of, let's scale the example to my real life silly one, all right? Because it's always really extreme to go to Nazis. And YouTube's probably going to flag this now. It's always really extreme to go that far, but I want you to see an example that is in our real time, that we would be able to relate to. Let's go to my example of just my small car issue. At the time, it just feels like suffering. And at a certain point, it looks like this car that provided and I need this for my family is just going to be a sacrifice. It's just going to be something I'm going to have to give away. And there's meaning behind this. There's something deep inside this. Yeah, okay, okay, so a lot of people, they look at the number of tattoos I have, all right? And they go, a very obvious, not a dumb question, an important question, but it's, did it hurt? Like getting tattoos? Yes. Yes, it did, Lynn. Like, it hurt a lot. And some of you have a high pain tolerance. Good for you. I don't. I'm breathing through every needle scrape, okay? Like, and I got a tattoo on my left arm that I sat for 8 hours through. Um, Also, not a great idea. But I was getting like free work done, so I was like, keep going. Like I'll take free tattoo work. So I like, and so it's like it hurt, but here's one of the benefits of something like that for people who want tattoos and all this stuff, or you have them, you know exactly what it is. You're willing to go through the pain because you know what happens after it, which is you have a piece of art unique to you, right? And so there's the pain all pain is momentary. And we go, well, what about the people who die and they die in pain? Still a moment in the grand scale of things. I'm not belittling it. Please don't hear that. But it's still a moment, especially if what we're promised in life is eternity. This is a blip in the timeline in which God is offering you. It hurts, but our perspective a lot of times in the choices and the things that life throws at us is that I just don't know when this pain is going to end. And so for tattoos, I know exactly when it's going to end. I paid for a certain amount of hours, or I paid for a design. I'm going to get it when those things are completed. And so the pain is easy to go through. But there, you guys catching with me here? I want us the perspective shift of your current suffering is knowing that there is a time in which it ends. Do you know that time? No, that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good at all because there's a very high chance the vast amount of pain and suffering we go through in life will end before your death. But it doesn't feel like that, does it? It feels like this is going to be an ongoing loneliness. There's a suffering and loneliness. And as you're experiencing it, it doesn't feel like that's ever going to end, right? And you try. You try to reach out to friends and family and nobody responds, right? And it feels like this is just going to be life. But I'm telling you, there is an end. There's just choices that we have to go through in order to get to that. So here's some of the problems that we don't know is we just don't know the futures. They become unknowable. That's just plain. You don't know if your CEO is going to lay you off. You don't know if your car is going to break down. And here's the thing that as I was studying this, and I wrote this down just as like a side note in my notes, and it says, "Our noble future clouds our present perspective." It gets messy. It's like fog, right? You can see just a couple feet in front of you, but one of the most dangerous things about driving in fog is you're really hoping the other cars have their lights on as well. Have you ever driven past a car in fog and they don't put their lights on? Terrifying, right? Like even if they're on the correct side of the road. Have you ever done it down a mountain? Just like just scary. Natalie and I driving home to Kentucky one time, it was middle of the night. At this time, we like driving through the middle of the night so the kids would sleep. It's a 12-hour drive from here to where we live or our family is in Kentucky. And we went through a blizzard. Everybody in my family's asleep. And I'm like, we got to get Kentucky. We have to get to Kentucky. Here's what I did. You guys, you're going to hate me that I did this. I drove using the GPS map because I could not see the road. The blizzard was coming down so hard, I couldn't see the lines. So I was driving and we were, right, okay, you guys are with me now. Yeah, everybody was asleep. Yes, Jesus was taking the wheel. That's kind of that's the cloud that I'm talking about, right? Is when we face suffering, it blurs so much that we just can't even see the beginnings of what God is trying to do or what the end of this road would look like. We talk about living in the present a lot. Or at least as a church, we talk about that a lot. We want you to live in the now. Jesus says, hey, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has enough worries. So just be here today. Just be present with what God is trying to do today. It's not, here's the thing. Most people go, oh, I just don't plan anything. I'm just lazy. I'm just careless. Stop that, please. We all live in the world with you. And we need you to make plans. I'm not even a planner, but my wife is, and I live with her. So I need you to make plans. And follow through on them, please. But here's I think what Paul and Jesus are talking about in living in in the present and having a correct perspective isn't just being careless or just being like, you know what, just out the door. It's actually having a hope beyond the situations. And so how many of us, our motivations in life are just to avoid suffering? So like the car you choose. I don't want to be here in Omaha. I don't want to drive through snow without four-wheel drive, right? Why? Because I've gotten in a car crash or I've had friends that have and they didn't have that. And so a four-wheel drive car will give me confidence that's going to be okay. That's good. Like that's good. But then there's the built-in anxiety that comes from this. How about the job you chose, right? Oh, I'm actually in a job I hate being at, but I need the money. And so I'll suffer through my job so that I could have the benefit of cash so I could live in the house that keeps breaking down and drive the car that won't sustain. And you're like, so you spend half of your day doing something you don't like to pay for the other half of your day that you don't like. How many addictions do we have to avoid pain? Oh, I just have anxiety. I just can't go to sleep. So the bottle becomes a close friend, right? The joint becomes a close friend. And it's okay. Anyways, Paul, in his first part of Philippians, asks the church in Philippi, who is truly under persecution, to change its perspective. Verse 21 of chapter 1 reads like this: "For to me, living means living for Christ, and dying is even better." Weird. But if I live, by the way, you can say that about the Bible. Doesn't make it untrue. It just makes it weird. And that's okay. And dying is even better. But if I live, I can do more fruitful work for Christ. So I really don't know which is better. I'm torn between two desires. I long to go be with Christ, which would be far better for me. But for your sakes, it is better that I continue to live. Knowing this, I'm convinced that I will remain alive so I can continue to help all of you grow and experience the joy of your faith. Paul, you're a weirdo. And when I come to you again, he has this like forward thinking mentality. His words show this. When I come to you again, you will have even more reason to take pride in Christ Jesus because of what he is doing through me. And if we don't read Philippians correctly or don't understand the purposes of writers like Viktor Frankl, these individuals seem careless and nonchalant about their lives, almost like they want it to end. But as someone who has faced moments of death before, let me tell you, these are not the writings of someone trying to end their life. They're trying to live their life and trying to find reasoning within that. These messages are not messages from depressed people. They're messages from people who are overcoming incredible obstacles and giving messages to us of how to do it for ourselves as well. You can't have Viktor Frankl's story, nor would you want it. You can't have Paul's story, nor would you want it, but you do have your story. You do have your thing. Now, the Bible tells us that when we reach the time of heaven, we're going to see the saints. They're going to ask us, what was it like living in the time post Jesus? Because there's going to be a suffering that happens in life, but some of the characters and people we read out in the Bible didn't have a solution to their suffering. You do. David didn't have a solution to his suffering. He just suffered and believed. But the moment Jesus comes on the picture, it's you suffer and you'll be with me. There's time in which this is difficult, but you will be with me. The older I get, the more I want to be around people who get this idea, who understand what it means to go through difficult things, to suffer, to be in pain, and to overcome it. I want to learn from those who have lost a ton of weight because they went through the journey. I want to sit at the feet of people who have kept the faith for a long time. And when I mean long time, I'll just mean like a handful of years. Like I mean 40, 50 years, they've been faithful to Christ. I want to sit at their feet and learn. Because they have gone through the struggle of doubt and fear and worry and family leaving and all of this stuff. I want for those who have gone through diagnoses that just seem like it just ended, but then they got through it. They went through chemo. They went through bone marrow transplants. They went through I want to talk to them. That's the friends I want to have close to me because I don't know what life is going to throw at me, but I want to know who my coaches are whenever I go through it. Amen. And so here's the thing: like pick your friends, right? Pick these people closely. So I like reading stories. I like Viktor Frankl, but others that help teach me, like in real life, not just Bible life, but real life, how do you go through this? There's in 2003, a man named Aaron Ralston, a 27-year-old outdoorsman, was climbing down a wedged boulder when the rock suddenly and terrifyingly came loose. Before he could get out of the way, the falling stone pinned his right hand and wrist against the canyon wall. The 800-pound boulder was unmovable, and for 6 days, Aaron weighed his options for escape, crying out for anybody. Says that he's only, in his book, he writes that he was only 8 miles away from his car, hoping anybody, but he was traveling alone. Dumb idea, which he admits. He weighed his options for escape. The terrifying truth became his only option to stay alive. Using a pocket knife, Aaron Ralston freed himself, leaving his right arm pinned in the boulder. In his book, recounting his story, Aaron says, "Everything happens for a reason. And part of the beauty of life is that we're not allowed to know those reasons for certain." This is from someone who has suffered something unthinkable. But how many of us feel like a part of our soul is pinned underneath an 800-pound rock, unmovable? How many of us, some of our emotions, our family connections, our friend connections are pinned, and we've been weighing the options longer than 6 days? Some of us, it's been 6 years. I can just stay here a little bit longer. Maybe if I keep crying out, someone will come. Maybe somebody will make this better. Maybe somebody will put a balm on this suffering hurt that I have. How many of us then we marry somebody and we go, oh, finally, someone who can help me get out of this. Maybe they can lift the 800-pound boulder, but then the problem is that we attract people who are just like us, and you turn around and they're pinned in their own 800-pound boulder. And your marriage issues aren't actually issues. It's that you expected them to free you, but they're still trying to free themselves. Please let me bring you back to what the Bible urges. Worship team, you guys can come forward and play some spiritual music underneath me. As we read the book of Philippians together as a church, I want us to read as people coming from the perspective of learning how to live in a suffering world. The world all around us is just going through intense difficulty, and we're called to somehow live beyond that with a different perspective. This is going to take several weeks for us to even scratch the surface of what that means. And so this is what we're going to go through. Unfortunately, part of life is suffering. Some of that suffering we chose, and some of the suffering life chose for us. But it is neither here nor there in the grand scale of the life we are called to live. God has put you here for a reason. And for some, that lasted a while, and for some, that time and reason is very short. But the truth is true nonetheless. The hope we have is that this time here, while we breathe the same air, is only a part of our lives that we actually get to live with Him. I want you to change your perspective. For Paul, that prison was not going to set him free. For Frankel, there was no running away from the tortures he was facing. For Aaron Ralston, his arm could not free itself. And for the church in Philippi, the Roman city would continue to see Christians as a threat. Paul says in chapter 1, verse 28, don't be intimidated in any way by your enemies. This will be a sign to them that they are going to be destroyed, but you are going to be saved, even by God Himself. For you have been given not only the privilege of trusting in Christ, but also the privilege of suffering for Him. We are in this struggle together. You have seen my struggle in the past, and you know that I'm still in the midst of it. That's how he ends chapter 1. You've seen it. I'm still here. I'm still going. Still believe God's doing good things, amazing things in this. I want to leave you guys here with this perspective shifting question that I think everyone who has endured great suffering has been able to answer. How might God use this trial to bring about redemption? Viktor Frankl's book sold over 10 million copies and has been rewritten in 24 languages. In it, he declares his faith in God as his strength in the middle of chaos. Aaron Ralston, in his book, says that it was his cries out to God at night that God answered with memories of his family that drove him to keep going. In Paul, we see 3 accounts of him in prison, not just this one. They might have crossed over a few times, maybe. But each time, what does he say about his experiences? Everything that has happened to me here has helped me spread the good news. God has never wasted a moment of suffering or joy, ever. So why would he start now? Whatever you're going through, good and bad, may it be God who gets all the credit. Even my bad things? Yeah. Because he's also the one that's going to free you from it. And you're going to look back and you're going, I have no idea how I got through that. I have no idea how my marriage survived. I have no idea how I broke that addiction. I have no idea how any of this works. I have no idea how I got a car, at the same loan for my same monthly cost. We basically didn't lose any money in a situation in which I did nothing wrong, but everything was on me. I have no idea how that works. I have no idea how moments where God called us to tithe beyond what we felt like we were comfortable with. And we were in our last dollars, but we believed that we needed to tithe. And that the moment we did that, we saw the bank account go empty. But the next week, we saw somebody randomly send us the exact amount that we needed in order to pay our bills. I have no idea how this works, by the way. I have no idea that whenever I prayed for a man getting baptized, as he limped into the waters, walked out with no injury. I have no idea how this works. I only know that God is the one to do it. I've seen people who have broken addictions. I've seen marriages come back together. I have seen the worst situations become redeemed. And it comes from this, where somebody admits that the suffering is not the end.